Okay, good evening, Rabbi. We're going to talk tonight about the Parashat Shemot, which is Shemot, a new book, right? The second book of the Chumash. So it starts over here, a new narrative, a new idea, new things going on over here, all kinds of new stuff. So, first of all, the obvious question is asked, which is, what did the Jewish people do to deserve such punishment like this? They should be enslaved for 210 years. The Chazal say it was 210 years altogether they were enslaved. Hard labor, very back-breaking, bone-breaking, bone-crushing labor. You don't find any other nation that was enslaved like this in this kind of way. So, why would the Jewish people be liable for such a punishment like that? What was their sin? They had to go through this. This was a very, very terrible experience. There was over there all kinds of affliction. There was all kinds of torture. There was very nasty torture, very nasty, very cruel and unusual punishments, things which were out of the ordinary. Basically it was like, what Hitler did, like something similar to that, except that they were not really killing them per se, but they were afflicting them, with all kinds of torture and all kinds of affliction. So the question is, why did the Jewish people deserve such a thing like this? Now, you know what the interesting thing is? The interesting thing is that Moshe Rabbeinu himself was pondering this question. That's what it says. He himself grew up in the court of Paro. He was a privileged person. He got lucky, if you call that luck, right? We don't call that luck, but he was a fortunate one. He grew up in the palace of Paro, over there, big shot, chief of staff, handling Paro's court, and his palace and everything. Big shot, but he knows that he's a Jew, so he's going out there and looking at the Jewish people, how they're enslaved and afflicted.
Why did he find out that he was Jew?
He knew all his life.
All his life.
Yeah, you know why? Because his stepmother, who was Batia, the daughter of Paro, she himself also converted to Judaism. That's what happened, right? She was a convert. Huh?
Later.
The truth is that she converted when Moshe was born. That was the time that she converted. How do we know that? What's the sign, right? Everything needs a sign, right? So what's the sign? The sign is that Moshe Rabbeinu, when he was left on the water, to go and be found. Who found her? It was Bitia, Bat Paro, right? So what was she doing over there in the water? Say the Chazal, she went over there to convert. She was toveling, she was dunking into the water, Doing right. That's not. We don't call that baptizing, right? Lehavdil. This is conversion. She was going over there to convert to Judaism. That's the idea, right? That's what the Chazal say. So she was already a believer in Judaism. She was a faithful woman, and later on, by the way, she also married a big tzaddik. Who did she marry? Kalev ben Yefuneh, right? Kalev married Bitia Bat Paro. That's what happened. Right? Kalev ben Yefuneh was a big tzaddik, a big leader.
The movie is wrong?
I don't know exactly what goes on over there, but we won't need to reference it. Don't worry, we don't need to reference it. So
come on, Cecil B. DeMille. One of the greatest directors.
So what happened was that Moshe Rabbeinu knew he was Jewish, and he grew up, by the way, with all the customs of Judaism. He was raised as a Jew.
But they didn't know.
He was putting tefillin. No, they knew very well. Yeah, Paro knew that he was Jewish. Yeah, of course. You can't hide that. He was putting tefillin. He was praying. He was doing all the mitzvot of the Jewish people. So Paro knew very well that he was Jewish, but Paro didn't mind. Why is that? Even though he was the afflictor of the Jewish people, but Moshe Rabbeinu was very charming. So when he looked at Moshe Rabbeinu, he was like, "Ooh, Google eyes," "Ooh, oh, so cute."
But Moshe Rabbeinu,
what a charming guy.
These people were getting afflicted,
right,
and tortured.
So his question was, why the Jewish people? Can you please close that? It's very cold. Thank you very much. No, that door, outside. Please, thank you. Yes. So, as we said, Moshe Rabbeinu was pondering this himself. This question: why the Jewish people should be punished so severely? No other nation in the world has been punished like this, except the Jewish people. At that time, there was no such a thing like that. So, when did
Jewish people?
So when did he find out the answer? In this parsha we have it, right? When is that? when he goes out one day to see what's going on in the street, right, in the fields, to see what his people are up to. So he goes out there and he sees one Egyptian man, a taskmaster, right, who's hitting a Jewish man, giving him like big makot, big punches, bach, buch, bach, whipping him with the lashes. So Moshe Rabbeinu, so Moshe Rabbeinu killed this guy, this Egyptian, for what he did. He was afflicting the Jew. It's a whole story there. But the point is, right, that before he killed him, he got opposition from his own people. What does that mean? That when he killed the guy, Datan and Abiram saw him, that he killed him. He got spotted. So what happened was that then Datan and Abiram were the biggest troublemakers, right, of that generation. You know how they were, right? These was like, Shif and the other guy. What's his name? The other guy from the other. What's his name? Shif and Nadler. Yeah, Nadler. This was the Datan and Abiram.
And they were Jewish.
Yeah, they were Jewish. Yeah.
Not
only they were Jewish, right? They were congressmen as well. They were like leaders. They were like up high and then in the food chain, right? Whatever. Right? So the point is that they started to fight with each other as well. Right? Shif and Nadler. They got into a fist fight. Datan and Abiram. So what happened was that one raises his arm to hit the other guy. About to give him a big chop. Chach. So Moshe Rabbeinu tells him, "Stop right there, you! Hey, don't hit your fellow Jew. You're not allowed to hit your fellow Jew." Right? So what happened was that once they heard Moshe Rabbeinu rebuking them, what did they answer? They said, what are you going to do? You're going to kill us like you killed that Egyptian yesterday? You want to do the same thing with us, huh? So they knew that what he did. They witnessed that whole episode. They knew about it. So what happened was that Moshe Rabbeinu, once he heard that rebuke from them, what did he say? Achen noda davar. What does that mean? Now the matter is known. What matter is known? According to a simple explanation, what that means is that, right, what I did, that I killed that guy, it's been found out, right? That was a simple explanation. But there's something deeper also here that Chazal say, right? What does that mean? Now I know why the Jewish people deserve to be punished like this with slavery. Now I got the answer.
They hate each other. Because they hate each other?
There's something even more than that, right? Even more than hatred. What did he say? He said, you know what? These people are they squeal. They squeal. They're squealers. They're informers.
Yeah.
Like Shif.
Yeah.
Exactly the same type of people. Right? Same idea. Every generation we get people like that in the Jewish people. These informers. You understand? So what happened was, all that stuff, all that story that goes on there, right? The whistleblower, right? You know the whole thing. So what happens is that Moshe Rabbeinu says, now I know why, because there's informers by the Jewish people, and this is the reason why the Jewish people have been punished with such great punishment like this, such great affliction like this. So this is the simple meaning. This is relatively simple, right? We're going like into the inner layers. Right, exactly, filling the onion, exactly right. So now let's go one layer deeper, right? I just told you now was the second layer. Now let's go into the Zohar Kadosh, right? Which is like the Sod, the Remez, deeper. Kabbalah, whatever. So says Zohar Kadosh, here there was also another interesting thing over here. What really happened? Why did the Jews deserve to be punished like this? It's not really because that they had some kind of squealers and this, informers. I mean, that's also true. But there's something even deeper over here. And why, by the way, do we say that the informers is not really enough? Because just because these guys are informers doesn't mean the whole nation is informers. You know what I mean? So it's not exactly a comprehensive answer to answer the whole question. Just because these two guys are lowlives, that we all have to suffer. You know what I mean? Like what is that? Collective punishment? So what's the answer? The answer is that Chazal say in the Zohar Kadosh, the rabbis over there say something very deep. They say that the Jewish people were destined to be afflicted in Mitzrayim because they needed that for their tikkun, for their rectification. What does that mean? What kind of tikkun is this? What tikkun is there in being a slave? Can you maybe answer this question? Does anybody have an answer? What's good about being a slave? You know?
Rabbi, I look at it very from a different point of view.
Yeah.
I don't want to say it.
What's the good thing about being a slave?
That you learn the
Anything good about it?
Yeah, you learn humility and you
Humility.
You appreciate the sweetness. And your
Sweetness of
saving,
what? Of what?
Of being saved.
Of being saved. Oh, okay, but there were people, who died there and were not saved. You know what I mean? This was, it's like 4 generations. You know what I mean?
Wonderful.
So then what's with those guys? So what's the answer? It says in the Zohar Kadosh that being a slave for the Jewish people at that moment, at that time, was very good for them. They needed that. Without that, it wouldn't go. What does that mean? That the Chazal teach us something very deep over there in the Zohar Kadosh. They say that the Jewish people, where is the shoresh? Where is the root of the souls of the Jewish people? Where does it come from? The shoresh, the root. So it comes from those souls that were in the time of Adam Rishon. What does that mean? Adam Rishon, he separated from his wife 130 years. Gave her a get, divorced her. Bye-bye. Right? We're not getting into why he did that. We're not going to get into that now. That's not the issue, right? So what happened was that all that time, 130 years that he was separated from his wife, what happened was that he wasn't bringing children into the world, but these demons were coming to him, and bearing all kinds of spirits and souls and all kinds of things. So what happened was that because of this sin of Adam Rishon that he did, there were some souls that fell into the klipot. There were some very good souls that fell inside the klipot. What is the klipot? The place of tumah, the place of impurity. They fell down over there. Chawarden. So what happened was that once the soul falls into the klipa, it falls into the dirty place like that. To get it out is a very big deal. You got to work very hard to get it out. You know what this resembles, by the way? The Chazal say, like, allegory, a mashal. You know what they say, right? That when the Yetzer Hara comes to a person, it's like, a wayfarer, a guest that comes to your door, knocks on your door, and says, "Hey, how are you? Can you give me, can you spare a dime, buddy? Give me a dime." So you tell him, "Okay, you know what? Come in. I'll give you something to drink. I'll give you something to eat." So the Yetzer Hara is like that. You understand? First he asks you for a dime. What does that mean? He asks you for something small, a small sin. Once he sees that you're amicable to his way, so he tells you to do bigger sins. You know what I mean? Let's go to number 2, step 3, step 4. He gets you in his web. You understand? It's like he's got you in his web now. But once he gets you in the web, it's very hard to get out of there. You understand? The more you get inside there, very hard to get your way out. You know why? Because now he's got you trapped very strong. And you've got to do very, very strong strategy to get out of there. They say, right, that if Hashem wouldn't help a person who wants to do tshuva, he wouldn't be able to do tshuva by himself. That's how strong the Yetzer Hara is. So what does that mean? If a person decides to do tshuva, what happens is that they help him in Shemaim to get out of that web, this very deep place where it's very hard to get out of there. So this is what the Yetzer Hara is. So once those neshamot fell in there, they were in a very, very bad place, very dirty place, very filthy place. So what happened was to get them out needed several stages of tikkun, of rectification. So what happened was that the first stage was, when was that? In the time of the flood, right? Noach, when the flood came, and all those people died over there. So those neshamot were also from Am Yisrael. Those neshamot that died over there in the flood, they were the souls of the Jews over there. That was the first time they had to die. Then the second time they came in the Dora Flagam, right? The dispersion, the generation of dispersion, right? Which was after the flood. They also had to be killed over there and punished all kinds of things. There was a second stage of the tikkun.
What's the dispersion?
Dispersion that they made the tower and they were dispersed, right? Exactly.
Okay, that's what it means.
So now the third stage was what they had to come back now Mitzrayim. Those same souls had to come back in Mitzrayim again. Now they came back as the sons of Abraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov. This is the Jewish people. And this time, in order to get out, in order to do the next tikkun, they needed hard labor,
Punishment.
Not hard punishment, hard labor. You know what I mean? Yeah. But the point is, right, that labor is something which can remove a person from impurity. They say, right, the best thing for a person to do, if he's like usakamuri, doesn't do nothing in his life, go get a job, Like, why are you sitting at home doing nothing, This is the worst thing that a person can do. When a person has nothing to do to his life, he gets in trouble, does this sin, now does another sin. He's got nothing better to do, looking for trouble, he's always in the wrong place at the wrong time. So the best thing for a person like that who doesn't have yet the level of in his neshama to learn Torah all day, to be a big chacham, to be a big tzaddik like this, the best thing to do is to labor, to work. Go, sit, do a job, do something, make some money, whatever it is, right? Get a wage. So the Jewish people needed this hard labor in order for the next step of the rectification, of the tikkun. So Kadosh Baruch Hu knew that this was essential, this was necessary for them. So what does that mean? It's really something good. That's what it is. It's really something actually good. Everything is good. Everything that happens in this world is for the best. It's for the good. That's what we say, right? Kol man de avid rachamana letava avid. What does that mean? Everything Hashem does is for the best. Don't ever think, why did it have to be this way? If you think like that, you lack emunah. You don't know that it had to be that way. There couldn't be any other way. This is what you needed. This was your recipe, This was your prescription. So
Hashem expects us to put our feelings away, emotions, accept all the tragedies, all the terrible things, hardships that we go through, and say, "Oh, this is wonderful. This was all meant to be."
Not only that, right? Even on top of that, a person has to do what when something bad happens. He has to also make a bracha. He has to make a blessing.
I see.
You have to bless God. What's the blessing that we make when something bad happens? Baruch atah Hashem, Elokeinu melech haolam, dayan ha'emet. What does that mean? Blessed are you, God, the ruler of the universe, that you are the true judge. You are the true judge.
Once again, you're a true judge.
True judge. True. Namduli,
And not question God why this happened.
We have to bless Him for that, right? We have to bless Him. So what does that mean? That everything that happens in this world has a reason. There's a reason for everything. So what does that mean? That the Jewish people needed that in order to get out of the klipot. They needed the hard labor. And the only way for them to get ready to receive the Torah was to first go through this stage of hard labor. There was no other way for them. Otherwise they weren't ready.
They still didn't want to accept the Torah.
Nobody has to.
That's why you guys still don't want to learn. That's why you guys still don't want to learn halakha. You also don't want to accept the Torah.
God.
So you have to.
You don't accept it.
We gotta get you into halakha more. Okay. So anyway, the point is like this, right? That they needed the hard labor. Once they got that dose of hard labor, 210 years of hard labor, then they were ready to receive the
It's
Torah.
already several generations.
Yeah. What does that mean? There was many neshamot. Yeah, all kinds of things. We don't know all these things. What's going on over there, right? We don't know all these secrets, but every neshama has its own tikkun. Every neshama, every soul has its own rectification. So here also in this world, by the way, we have two types of people. Kadosh Baruch Hu has people who are working, need to work, and there are people who are learning Torah. This is like a minority in this world. The truth is, in Israel, there's many people like that. So what does that mean? There are neshamot who don't need to work. They're already high enough to learn Torah all day. They already went past that stage. But there are neshamot who still need to work. They need to do some labor in order to rectify themselves still. Not the hard labor we had in Mitzrayim, not like that. Right? Nothing was like that. Forget about that, right? That was something else. That was torture. It was the worst of the worst, right? Oh, that's a good question. That's a good question. Probably they had something. Yeah, the truth is, I don't really see anywhere where it's mentioned this issue. But logically speaking, you would think that they would have to have one day off.
I'll tell you what. Because, you said that Leviim did not work.
Right, they didn't work at all because they were studying Torah. They were on a different level, right? That's the reason why.
How come they won't get punished also?
Huh?
How come the Pharaoh didn't tell them go work? What do I care about your Torah?
So what's the answer to the question? The truth is, right, that this issue is very much alive today as well. What does that mean? That we have over there the government in Israel. People who are like Paro. They hate the Jewish people. They're anti-Semites. Jewish anti-Semites we have over there. You know what I mean? So what happens is that there are people like that. Today the biggest anti-Semites are not in Germany. They're in Tel Aviv. They're in Haifa. They're the people who think it's anti-Semitic.
It's not Nadler, Shomer, and...
There's also. But we have even people who are bigger than that. More. Yeah, I'm saying very serious. Until you live there, you don't know what that is. You have to live there for a while, Once you live in Israel, you know what's going on there. From here, you don't know what's going on.
By the way, Rabbi, just to answer Jimmy's question about keeping Shabbat, and Schindler's List, they did get to keep Shabbat.
Okay, very good.
Remember Schindler?
So, what's the...
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
He said that go live, but not while they were working.
I see.
So what's the answer to your question? The answer is like this, right? That when a person learns Torah, it says in Pirkei Avot, "Kol hamekabel al atzmo ol shamayim, ma'avirim mimenu ol malchut ve'ol dorech eretz." What does that mean? That a person who accepts upon himself the yoke of heaven, they remove from him the yoke of the king. The king cannot touch him. In other words, this is the way the world is built. Once you take on the Torah, nobody can touch you anymore. You're invincible. You know, nobody can tell you, "Listen, come out," you know, and help me with something. What help you? I'm serving God. What are you talking about?
And Paro cared that Levim was serving God.
So even Paro, you understand? Paro is also part of the system of God. You know, so Paro has no power to go against the will of God.
Of course not.
You understand? That's the whole thing. That's the whole idea. So today also there are people who want to draft, the yeshiva students into the army, but they can't. You know why? Because Hashem doesn't let them. That's what I'm telling you. Same thing applies today as it was then. Nothing has really changed. You know? Olam kemin hagonoheg. Every day, by the way, they try to make some new scheme, to draft the yeshiva students. And every time it doesn't work. Every time they go empty-handed. That's the way it is. Why is that? But there's a constant struggle going on in Israel about this, Who's going to be in the yeshiva? Who's going to be in the army? This is like every day they talk about it. Nothing better to do,
Yeah.
So this is the big discussion over there. Why? Because they can't go against the will of God. Just like Paro wasn't able to do it, they also cannot do. Nobody can do. Nobody can touch you. You understand? Because the Malchut only works according to the will of God. Doesn't go beyond that. You understand? That's the idea. So therefore, that's the reason why the Levim were off, right? Nothing. But the point is that they needed to rectify themselves to make the tikkun and then to receive the Torah. So Kadosh Baruch Hu did everything for the best. This was the idea of the galut over there in Mitzrayim. Another interesting thing which we find in the Parsha is that Moshe Rabbeinu has this encounter, with God when he goes out into the desert, right? Yeah. He goes out.
Did Moses ask God if he was wondering why this punishment was going on? Did he personally ask him, "Why are you doing this to your people?"
No, because at that time he didn't have a prophecy.
I see.
The prophecy came later.
Okay.
Right? When the prophecy came when he left Mitzrayim.
Okay.
That was the time that the prophecy came. So now we're going to exactly talk about that point, right? The prophecy came when he was already in Midian, who was with his father-in-law over there, right? Jethro, right? Was his father-in-law. So what happened was that,
So he killed that guy.
Right.
With Holder.
Right.
Then he saw the Jewish guys fighting.
Right. He had to run off because of that.
Ran off.
Yeah, he had to run. Because Paro was looking to kill him. Understand? Because they squealed on him. Datan Babiram, they went to Paro, they said, what he did, your son-in-law, Moshe Rabbeinu, he killed the Egyptian guy. So then Paro said, oh yeah? He sent after him an executioner,
He did say that.
So Moshe Rabbeinu, he turned his neck into marble, they say, right? Hashem. So he tried to kill him with a sword, and it turned into marble. Chach! So he couldn't get him, and then Moshe Rabbeinu ran off. That's what happened, right?
Was that in the movie too?
No, absolutely not.
Okay, so what happens is like this, right? That now Moshe Rabbeinu encounters God the first time. When did this happen? He was going as a shepherd, right, to graze the flocks of Yitro, his father-in-law. So what happens is he goes out into a far land, distant land. Why did he go so far like that? Because he didn't want to graze the sheep in the local area there. What's the reason why? Because it was private property. He didn't want to steal, Banditigos. He didn't want to do banditoba. So he used to go in a place which was far away, which is ownerless area. Nobody owns that area. This is the reason why he used to go far away. So what happened was that he went far away, and all of a sudden, he sees over there the burning bush, right, the famous burning bush. Goes over there, and he sees, right, that it's not being burned. It's just like burning, but it's not being burnt. It's not being consumed. Goes over there to see what's going on. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu, all of a sudden, right, speaks to him, starts talking to him, Moshe. Huh? So they say, right, that he started talking to him in his father's voice. Why? So he shouldn't be like startled, because it would be like a strange voice. He would think it's like, Space Invaders, get spooked out. So he spoke to him in his father's voice, whatever. The point was that then he asked Hashem, he said, you know what, who are you? You know, I said, I'm God. I'm the God of Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. I came to release the Jewish people, to redeem them from Egypt, from the affliction. So what happens is, right, that Moshe Rabbeinu, they say, once he saw that vision of the Shekhinah, the divine presence, in that place, right, exactly. What happened was that he hid his face, you know. He like took a veil, you know, and went like this. He hid himself. So this is a very interesting episode, this whole thing, right? The truth is, in the Chazal, in the Talmud, they have a machloket regarding this, two different ways of looking at it. Whether this issue of hiding himself was something good or something bad. Right? Two different versions of the story. They're both true. They run concurrently with each other. So what does that mean? That according to one opinion, what Moshe Rabbeinu did was very, very good. And from here, by the way, you learn a moral lesson also from this, what Moshe Rabbeinu did. Why is that? Because Moshe Rabbeinu, what he did was he hid his face. Why? Because he didn't want to gaze at the Shekhinah, at the divine presence. You know? So this is considered to be something really, really good. Why? Why is it so good? Because the Shekhinah, first of all, number one, if a person gazes at the Shekhinah for a long time, he can go blind. He loses vision altogether. That's number one. But that's not the reason why he hid his face. The reason was because he was a anav, he was a humble person. He was sanua, you know, he was a humble, lowly person, you know, didn't consider himself much, so therefore he considered to be like improper, you know, to gaze at the Shekhinah, you know, to hid himself. A person who thinks of himself not too great, you know, just thinks he's just a regular guy. You know? So that's the reason why he hid his face. So therefore they say, because he hid his face when he saw the Shekhinah, he was rewarded greatly for that. What was the reward that he got? The reward that he got was that when the Jews were in the Midbar, in the desert, what happened was that when he went up to Har Sinai to speak to God, when he came down, there was like rays of the Shekhinah coming from his face. They couldn't look at his face. So they say, why was he rewarded to have such rays like that of God? Like he looked like a god, you know? The rays of Shekhinah coming out of his face. What was the reason why he merited that? They say because he hid his face when he saw the Shekhinah at the burning bush. So this was the reward that he got. According to that, it was something positive that he did. According to this version, right? Humility, tzaniut, right? Tzaniut, right? Modesty. But there's also another version which is brought down as Zohar Kadosh, something very interesting, which looks at it in a negative way. What does that mean? They say that what Moshe Rabbeinu did was here to hide his face was really a big mistake. What does that mean? Because it says the Zohar Kadosh that Kadosh Baruch Hu over here wanted to reveal to Moshe Rabbeinu some very deep things about the way the world runs. You know, the Kabbalah, the secrets of Hashem. What does that mean? He wanted to show Moshe Rabbeinu his countenance. Right? So now I ask you a question, right? Later on, isn't it true that Moshe Rabbeinu asked Hashem to show him his face? You remember that episode? He says to Hashem, show me your face. So what did Hashem answer him? You remember this episode? Hashem says, you can't look at my face. So what can you look at? The back, you know, the back of my head. So this is like very deep things, by the way. You know, we're not talking here about a regular face. We're talking about the face is more like the revealed wisdom, you know, like the highest level of wisdom that there is in the world. The light of God, you know, the way God runs the world. The most innermost secrets of God. This is the face of God. The back is more like, you know, the back channel, not like the deepest level. You know what I mean? Not on that plateau. Not the same thing. So Moshe Rabbeinu, right? He got a raw deal over here, right? He says, "Show me your face." So HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, "I'll show you my back." Yes, thank you.
You know what I mean? How do we know that here he hid his face, but later we find out that Hashem was supposed to expose the deepest secrets. How do we know that? So the Zohar Kadosh, we have a tradition from the Zohar. It's a Kabbalah. It's Kabbalah. You know what's Kabbalah? Tradition, right? That was the time. Says the Zohar Kadosh. What he did was interesting, right? What he did was over there was a big mistake. He hid his face. You know why? Because exactly what he asked Hashem to give him at the time of over there later on was exactly what Hashem wanted to give him over here. He wanted to show him his face, but Moshe Rabbeinu hid his face. He said, "I don't want to see that." So therefore,
they say the Zakadosh, right? Hashem now paid him measure for measure. Midah keneged midah. What does that mean? He told them, when I offered you to see my face, you didn't want. Now you ask me, I don't give you. Too bad. You have to take it when it comes, right? That's the idea. That's what the Zakadosh says. Right? So there's two different ways of looking at it.
There was a burning bush. There was no Hashem. I mean, he was talking to us.
Yeah, this is like a more, deeper. This is deeper, right? Yeah. The burning bush is a simple, idea, and then there's deeper things there. Yeah, there's deeper things over there, right? Yeah, exactly, of course. That's the idea. Every prophet, by the way, has some kind of a vision that he sees. Depending on his level. Moshe Rabbeinu was on the highest level, so therefore, right, whatever he saw, nobody saw more than that. He was the top of the top of the line. So this is what happened with Moshe Rabbeinu. So therefore, there's two different ways of looking at this thing, this whole episode, whether what he did was good or not, right? So some ways it was good, some ways it's not so good. 50-50, right? Whatever it is. Okay, very good. I'll tell you one more thing over here in the Parsha, which is so here also we find that HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells Moshe Rabbeinu to gather up the elders of the people, right? In order that they should do together the redemption with the elders as well. So the question is, who are these elders? Who are we talking about over here? So interesting, right? That there's a whole story over here that leads up to this whole thing with the elders. What's the story? The story is that there was these two levels of leadership regarding the administration of the slaves. There was the officers who were on top of the slaves. These were Jews, right? Shotrim, that's what it says in the Hebrew, right? There was also taskmasters who were above the Shotrim, who were Egyptians. So it's two different levels of management, right? First, there's a level of Jews. Above that is the upper management, which is the level of Egyptians. That's what it was, right? So what happened was that Paro at this point, right, when the Moshe Rabbeinu came to speak with him, to let the people go, what happened was that Paro increased the load, right, of the work. He said, you want to go? I'm going to give you double the work now. You got to do double the work.
He goes to Paro with this Parsha?
Yeah. Everything is pretty fast, right?
It's very fast.
Very fast, yeah. It's a really express train, right? Whatever it is, right? So what happens is that Moshe Rabbeinu goes in there, he tells Paro, let my people go, blah, blah, blah. So Paro says, you know what, you're asking for that, now you're going to have to do double the job. Bring the straw and also make the bricks, right? Now you have to gather up the straw yourself. No more supplying of straw for you. So what happens is that Moshe Rabbeinu now has to take this upon his shoulders, right, to tell the people. What happened was that now he went and announced this. They announced, no more straw for you. You have to bring the straw yourself. So what happened was that the officers who were on top of the slaves, who were Jews, had mercy on them. What was the mercy that they had? They knew that this job for them to do both jobs together was too much. So therefore they didn't really force them to do that, They said, let them be, Whatever they do. But the problem was that on top of them was the Egyptian taskmasters. They were not forgiving. They had no mercy. So what happened was that because of the fact that the taskmasters, they took out their wrath on who? When they saw that the number of bricks was not being made as it was supposed to, they beat up who? The shotrim, the officers, right? They said, it's your fault. You're the one who has to guard this whole operation, that they have to make the same amount of bricks as they used to make before. You know what I mean? Double the job, too bad. So what happened was that those officers were whipped and lashed by the taskmasters. So they say that these are the elders. What does that mean? What was the zechut? They became the elders of the Jewish people because they were willing to take upon themselves to be hit and to be punished by the Egyptians because they didn't want to make the Jews suffer, to do a double job, right? So what do we see from there, right? We see that these elders, and they became the Sanhedrin, by the way. There was a Sanhedrin, it was a high court. The high court was from these people. They were the ones who made up the high court.
Their descendants.
Right. No, them themselves. In other words, the high court was already formed over here. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And on what basis? Because of the merit that they had, that they were whipped, they were lashed because of the Jewish people.
Sanhedrin in the desert.
Right. They had also Sanhedrin in Mitzrayim. You know, they had a court there.
Okay. But
yeah.
These people, they were in the Sanhedrin in the desert or in
both.
Mitzrayim?
Here and there also. There, yeah. In Mitzrayim also.
In Israel.
I'm sorry?
Not in Israel.
In Israel, yeah, they also had afterwards, after when they came in.
These were the people, same people, or before?
They already died after that, right? They
descendants, probably.
No, there was other people who took over after them, you know. But the truth is that they lived for quite a long time. They say, right, in the book of Yeshua, that they outlived Yeshua. So the elders lived more than Yeshua did, right? But there's also all kinds of things there, all kinds of variables about who these elders were. Why? Because some say the ones that went in with Yeshua were different elders than these. Why is that? Because these elders died in the desert. Why they died? Because they gazed at God. You know, when the Shekhinah came down on Har Sinai, exactly what we talked about, right? Moshe Rabbeinu didn't want to gaze. They had the chutzpah to gaze, and because they gazed at God like this in a brazen manner, they died, all of them, in the desert. So according to that, the ones who went into Eretz Israel were different elders. But anyway, these people merited to be elders on what? On merit that they took the lashes for the Jewish people, right? So what do you see from there, right? There's a moral lesson. The moral lesson is that a person, when he takes upon himself, you know, take responsibility for the Jewish people, you know, to relieve that burden and to make their life easier, he's willing to take on himself suffering because of that. This is a person who's a real leader. You understand? This is the only idea. A person who's able to self-sacrifice for him. Not to say, you know, oh yeah, I'll be comfortable, you know, I'll sit over there in the background and let them do, you know, the dirty work. It doesn't work like that, right? If a person really merits to be a leader, why is that? Because he's willing to also get his hands dirty as well. He has to be also take part in their suffering. And this is exactly what Moshe Rabbeinu wanted to do, right? Why did he go out there to see the Jewish people as they were enslaved over there, working in the field? Because he wanted to also participate with them, you know, to help them out a little bit. You know, let me pitch in a hand with you, you know, give you something to help. Give you a bucket of water. You know, let me give you this, right? He wanted to participate. He didn't want them to be like alone. So that's what a real leader is. You know, a real leader is somebody who's willing to participate in the suffering of people, not just to say, you know, oh yeah, I'll be in the White House, you know, eating fancy gourmet meals, and you guys suffer over there. Go to Afghanistan, go to Iraq, right? And this is exactly why. But you know, it's very good that the Trump, you know, he goes to over there, you know, to Iraq, right? You understand?
All the presidents.
This is very, very good. It's a very good thing to do. You know, it shows humility. Because there are, you know, kings who are like pompous, you know, they won't go anywhere. Oh, I'm in my palace, you know. You low-lives, second-class people, you do the dirty job. I'll be, you know, sitting living in luxury. It shouldn't be like that. You also should go and participate, right? So what do? You know, it's very nice what they do, right? They serve the soldiers food. They go to the cafeteria, and the president serves them. So it's like, you know, I'm also here with you, you know. It's a nice symbolic gesture, you know. Moshe Rabbeinu was doing the same thing, even more so. God bless you. Good health. Thanks for coming. God bless. Come every time. But now we have to see you every time. Otherwise, God bless you. You're a good guy, man. You're a good guy. We love you.
So much. I love you.
God bless you. So this is a sign of a real leader. You should know, by the way, that the Jewish people, the way their leaders operated, was not the way that leaders operate today. What does that mean? When they had a war to go to against, you know, enemy, who would go in the head of the army? The king would go. You understand? Now the king stays in the White House, you know, in the Situation Room, you know, is over there pressing some buttons, you know, computers, this and that, getting briefed by, you know. No, the king would go out himself and do the dirty work there. That's the way it was. The Jewish people, you know, that's the way it is. The leaders also participate in the action as well. Not just to stay in the background, you know, luxury life. That's not the way to be a leader. That's what we learn over here. And a person who does that, who participates in his people's, you know, in the lowly state of their people, to lift them up, even though for him it's like degrading, That's the one who becomes a real leader. That's the idea, right? That's the idea. Okay, very good. So let's look a little bit here at the Proverbs, at the Mishlei. Some interesting things we found over here. Some interesting verses. We're still in the Perek Yud Aleph, right? In the 11th Perek. It says over here like this. Baz le're'ehu chasar lev ve'ish tevunot yacharish. This is an amazing statement. I wish everybody could remember this. You know who I think was the best example of this? Your brother. Alav Shalom. You understand why. It says over here like this. Johnny says don't talk about his brother. No, it's good. It's good. It's good to talk about his brother. We have to remember the good things about him. So, we mention only good things, Johnny, don't worry. Okay. So, it says over here like this, right? Baz dere'ehu chasar lev. A person who disgraces his fellow, he lacks heart. He lacks understanding. What does that mean? That a person who is very, his heart is very callous. A callous person. What he does is, he doesn't mind insulting people, in front of his face, in front of people. He has no sensitivity, to his kavod.
Even if it happens during anger?
Yeah.
Might not mean it.
It always happens during anger, right? That's what happens. You know how it is, right? That's the person who has to be quiet, when he's angry, Mm-hmm. Shut your mouth, don't say nothing. Until you calm down, You know that. So, ve'ish tevunot yacharish. But a person who's understanding,
yes,
right, who doesn't have a callous heart like that, you know what he does? When somebody insults him, doesn't answer back, just stays quiet. You got the idea? That's the way he was, your brother. Alav Shalom. He was like this.
I never remember his brother being insulted by anybody, but I think
He would never be insulted. He would never insult anybody.
Insult, that's the idea.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the idea. You understand? A person, when he's like that, that shows that his neshama.
We were walking back one day from you, Ramazi, me, and Gia.
Yeah.
And I didn't know Gia. Now, for some stupid reason, everybody called him Shvili. We were all Shvili. But for some reason, he had a nickname Shvili.
Yeah.
And I made a remark, and I'm not patting anybody on the back, Jimmy. I say the way it is. I don't care. I remember I asked him, who is Gia? Guys call him Shvili. I said, Mike, we have all kinds of characters at this school. We have guys with big mouths, we have guys that are this, into heavy metal, this. I said, I've never quite seen anybody like this. This guy's like like an angel. I've never seen him argue with it. We used to argue.
Never.
We used to argue between guitar players, who's the best guitar. Guys, I'm a guitarist, leave it to me, okay? I'll be done. We had to, I said, and he said to me, David, you don't understand. This guy comes from a family of these people are. I remember him telling me. By the way, not only about Gia, he generalized. I don't know if you remember that.
I don't remember.
You don't remember.
His memory is much better than mine.
Memory for these nuances. I remember he said, and I swear my two children, I swear everybody that I have buried in the cemetery.
Swear, David.
He said,
I don't like swearing. I swear to you. I swear to you.
He comes from a family, this guy, where it's like a bunch of angels or something. Metaphorically, he used that kind of a word. I never remember Mike getting into a argument with anybody.
No such thing.
He would walk with his head down.
That's it.
We would exchange. He was a joker. He was a joker. He had a tremendous sense of humor, but very quietly.
King.
Yeah.
Precisely.
Yes.
So this is exactly what the
Very
pasuk
quiet.
is saying. You're saying a person who insults other people, he has a callous heart.
Yeah.
That's not good to be.
He
like that.
didn't even have the heart to ask me when I was going like this in gym on the spot, going like this, to ask me directly. So he asked them. Doesn't he play keyboards? Why is he going like this? He asked them. The message came to me from them.
We learn from here, Rabbi, a very, very important lesson. That a person, the best thing to do, if you're really, how do you know if a person has really smart, he's a very, very, very clever guy. When he's insulted, doesn't answer back.
So
absorbs it.
So we're not supposed to do what happened here on that Saturday morning, 31 years ago?
It's interesting. Now, it's very important that you mention this. I'll tell you why. You know why? Because there's two types of, when it comes to these kinds of confrontations between people, there's two types. One is on the personal level. There's a personal conflict between two people.
Right.
it's nothing really substantial, just personal, you know? They get like, you know,
Yeah.
into a bad state with each other, dissonance, you know? That's the worst thing, when a person starts to answer back, you know, and get into a strife like this. It shows that he's a childish, you know, callous heart. Don't answer back when people,
Stupid
you know?
or callous heart?
It's callousness, you know, that's what it is, you know?
Yeah.
How do you know if a person was wise? When it comes to these kinds of personal issues, you know, doesn't answer you. When you tell him something, doesn't say nothing.
And yet the person who doesn't answer in front of his colleagues when it happens amongst his peers is usually considered a coward. Oh, you know.
Oh, well, you know, I don't know what to tell you.
Didn't say anything, you know.
I guess today, in our generation, things are, you know, the opposite, right? Olam hapuch haiti. The world is upside down, right? As they say, right?
Charged.
So that's the idea of Rabbi. So, but when it comes to things which are l'shem shamayim, you understand? That's something else. There are sometimes that a person has to fight for, you know, for the Torah, for the mitzvot. Over there, he shouldn't be silent, you know, and say, you know, I'm a shy boy, you know. Don't be a shy boy. You're not fighting for yourself. You're fighting for God. Over there, you're not allowed to be silent. If something is wrong, you gotta, you know, start talking and even start screaming. Whatever it is that you need to do in order to get the job done.
Taught us that. You remember he said, if anybody speaks against God, you have the right to.
Yeah, put him down. Yeah, you got to blow him down.
To insult.
Yeah, that's the idea. So
And you use physical force is necessary.
So the idea is like this, right? When it comes to l'shem shamayim, that a person shouldn't be silent. When it comes to things which are personal, what are you being childish for? You know, when somebody insulted you, you're going to answer him back. You know, oh no, I'm not a monkey. You're a monkey. Okay, thank you very much. Very good. Okay. We heard you. Okay, yeah, very good. So what did you prove now? You called him a monkey. You called him a donkey. So what did you do? Yeah.
So I'm doing the wrong thing when I'm in Dunkin' Donuts and people speak against Trump, and I'm very vocal about it. You know.
You know what I say, right? Just being in Dunkin' Donuts is already the wrong thing. That's right.
Trump is appointed by God. Right. So you're fighting and defending one of his soldiers.
There you go.
Okay, very good. I'll say one more.
There you go.
All right.
You see the difference between the intellect between you and me?
You're plenty of it,
Another amazing pasuk, right? What brings in the Mishnah. So this is the last pasuk of the Yud Aleph of the 11th parak. It's over there. Hen tzadik ba'aretz yeshulam, av ki rasha v'choteh. This is something very powerful. It says Shlomo Melech, the wisest of all men. He says that for sure the tzaddik in this world will be paid for everything. That's what we talked about downstairs on Shabbat, right? That nobody gets away for free, you know? Nobody gets away with nothing. When you do something wrong, you can't tuck it under the rug. There's no way to cancel it out. You got to be paid for everything, lo aleinu. So, you know what it is? That the tzaddik especially gets paid for everything in this world. Because the Kadosh Baruch Hu wants him to go to the next world all clean. With nothing on his slate. A clean slate. No record, you know? No rap sheet. So he pays you for everything over here. You go over there 100% clean, you know, like an angel, like a little baby. Like you came in with no sins, you leave with no sins. That's what happens to a tzaddik. Why is that? Because everything is punished on. So now the question is, what about the Rasha? Right? So the truth is that, by the way, this was one of the questions that Moshe Rabbeinu had to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, right? Why is it that the wicked succeed and the righteous suffer? This was one of the big questions that he asked Hashem. He didn't understand what was going on with this, you know. So the truth is, right, that the reason why the wicked succeed is because the Kadosh Baruch Hu pays them all the good things that they did in this world. So in the next world they should have nothing, you know. That's why all the wicked, all the idolaters, you know, in this world they're living it up, $1 billion over here, $1 million over here, 550 million over here, living like, you know, lap of luxury. Everything is like super, you know, overkill with money. Success, girls, you know, women, this, everything, you know, nothing lacking. 100% everything. All the lusts that he has, he fulfilled. Nothing got left out. But when a person lives like that, what happens is that Kadosh Baruch Hu doesn't pay him for all the sins yet. He says, you know what, you're a Rasha. So for all the little mitzvot that you did, right, the few mitzvot that you did, I'll pay you over here, give you everything. Why is that? Because once you get to the next world, nothing will be left for you. You'll be out of gas, you know? That's it. The gas is finished, right? The fuel is out. This is the way it works.
Remember you told me to decide whether I wanted to do that or be a tzaddik?
That I remember.
Yeah.
Okay, it still applies, by the
So
way.
David, make it, because right now you have 1 foot there, 1 foot here, and those are the ones that suffer the most. That can't make it.
So
You're a tzaddik.
So Moshe Rabbeinu, right, asked the Kadosh Baruch Hu about this. So what does that mean? That now we expect that the tzaddik gets paid for everything in this world. He doesn't. There's a funny a slogan that they have in Israel. The sheriff, right, who collects the debts for people. Mm-hmm. There's something like that also in Israel. They're very nasty people over there. The sheriffs are the worst, like a mafia. Over there. It's like if you see them, start running.
Probably worse than here.
Probably yes. I agree with you.
I heard.
I agree with you. They're worse. Yes, they're worse. If it's possible. So what happens like this, right? That they have a slogan regarding this on the radio. They say, right, regarding these people, "Af echad lo nishar chayav." What does that mean? That with them, nobody stays guilty. What does that mean? They collect from everybody. In other words, nobody. Yeah. If you owe something, you will be visited, right? So that's their slogan. It's a funny slogan. Whatever. But not that I support them. I don't support them. But the point is like this, right? That Hakadosh Baruch Hu, that's the way it treats the tzaddikim. Nobody leaves this world with any liabilities. Everything is paid in full. That's
Tzaddikim,
it.
to what extent do you have to be a tzaddik to?
What does that mean, righteous? The tzaddik, it means that most of his deeds are good, Majority is good and minority is bad.
Okay.
That's called tzaddik.
That's why I said you're a tzaddik.
So we don't necessarily have to be you.
Hopefully. I don't recommend it. Okay, not recommended. Okay, so not easy, exactly, not easy. For sure not easy.
Yeah.
So now what I tell you is like this, right? That you may think, so what happens with the Rasha? With the Rasha, as we said, he gets paid over here all the good things that he did. Over there he has nothing left. All he gets over there is punishment. But nevertheless, though, says Shlomo Melech, you may think that the Rasha will succeed in most of his life. So you may think he's going to leave over here scot-free, like with nothing, like, get away with it. Not so. Shlomo Melech is telling you, right? If the tzaddik is going to be paid in this world, you can be sure that also the Rasha also will be paid. What does that mean? Even though in the beginning he will succeed to a certain point, but then once his zechut runs out, then all of a sudden he's going to be like, he's going to fall like big time, drop, like down for the count, TKO, bach, be knocked out. Towards the end of his life, he's going to start all kinds of problems, all kinds of issues, hospital, diseases, all kinds of things. Why is that? Because he was a Rasha. So what does that mean? That you shouldn't think, right, that only the tzaddik gets paid. The Rasha also gets paid in this world as well. What does that mean? In the end, he'll get his for all the things that he did. Nobody will come out, right,
Are you talking
scot-free.
about Weinstein and the guy that supposedly...
Yeah. I guess you could say that. So that's the point of Atai. So don't think that that's why they say the Chazal, a person should never. It says in Pirkei Avot, don't give up from Pur Anut. In other words, don't give up hope that the wicked will be punished, because they will be. Every one of them will be punished. Nobody goes out without being punished. You know what I mean? That's the way it is. They'll be punished in this world, and all the more so in the next world they'll be punished for their sins. Nobody gets away with nothing.
Doesn't it the Torah also tell you, don't look at what others do, whether it's this or that, and don't wait for them to be punished. You do what you have to do. Worry about yourself.
You know what it is? We're talking here about the wicked who are like famous wicked people, like big sinners,
Okay, all right.
So these people, what happens is that people look at them, how they succeed, and it frustrates them. How is it that these wicked people, these sinners, are living on a lap of luxury, on top of the world?
Yeah.
So it's like a Chil Hashem. And by the way, there are many people who are, like in the middle, like not too good, not too bad. But when they look at the wicked who succeed, they say, you see, it doesn't pay to be righteous. That's what they say, it doesn't pay. We should be like them, cheaters, liars, deceivers, because they're the ones who succeed.
But why are we generalizing? Do only wicked live in a lap of luxury? There are some good people also that.
It's true, but you know what it is, right? The Chazals tell us, we'll end up with this, right? What they say, that what does that mean? Not everybody is zoche, says there's a merit to have two tables. What does that mean? In this world, to have a nice table, and also in the next world, have a nice table. Usually, it's like a trade-off. If you have too much over here, you're going to lose over there. Nice. If you have too, right, like the opposite way as well, right? If you have very little over here, everything is going to be over there. So what does that mean? In most cases, most people don't have a zechut to have great life over here, everything, perfect, and also over there. As we said last week, right? We mentioned from Masechet Brachot. It's over there. It says in the Gemara that if a Kadosh Baruch Hu loves a person, how do you know? Because he punishes him in this world for everything.
You saw my comment about that?
I didn't see that. It's interesting.
No, I watched you guys on YouTube.
Yeah. Oh, you wrote comment there. Okay. I'll check it.
If God punishes you here, that means He loves you. So I wrote on the bottom, I commented, God must love me a lot.
I second the motion. So
I thought you would remark.
right. I didn't see it. I wasn't looking. I'm sorry. I will answer you. But anyway, the point is that if you see a person who everything is perfect in his life, that means that God doesn't like him. If you see a person like that, for sure Hashem doesn't like him, because only the biggest Rasha has a perfect life like that, with no punishment, no suffering, no nothing. Everything is perfect and peachy and rosy. Well, we'll get such a thing like that.
Yeah.
Same thing they say, by the way, regarding dreams. What they say, right? It says in the Gemara, Masechet Brachot also, towards the end of the Masechet. It says that if a person is a tzaddik, he gets a dream like every night. If he's a good person. But a person who's not getting any dreams at all, sometimes, by the way, you forget them. So just because you don't remember doesn't mean you didn't get one.
Yeah.
Because some of the dreams are forgotten. Right. So, but the thing is like this, right? They say that if a person doesn't get any dreams for a while, that means that Hashem hates him. He has no communication with him. He doesn't want to tell him nothing. Because those dreams are communication from God. They're telling you something, those dreams, So if a person gets nothing, that means that Hashem doesn't love him.
Wow, that's
what does that mean? That he thinks he thinks that this person is so bad, it's not even worth, to tell him anything, because it won't help. He gave up hope on the guy, hopeless. You understand? This is the idea. Hashem should help us with Hashem, that we should do teshuvah.
Amen.
And do all the mitzvot in the Torah. Amen. Amen. Thanks for coming. God bless you. Stay warm. Stay healthy. And get rich and healthy and happy. You and your families. Amen. Amen. Chazak u'baruch. Baruch Adonai le'olam. Amen. Amen.